Every story on this channel is told the way it was told to me. I don't change the endings. I just tell you what happened next. I need to say this before anything else. I know how it sounds. I know that the apartment is doing something to me is the kind of sentence people say right before everyone stops taking them seriously. But I checked. I checked everything. Twice. And I'm still here recording this at 4 a.m. because I am too afraid to fall asleep in that room. Let me start from the beginning because the order matters. It always matters in hindsight. I moved in back in March. 4th floor, corner unit, more square footage than I had any business affording, which, looking back, should have been the first warning. But rent is rent, and I didn't ask enough questions. The landlord was an older man, quiet, introduced himself as Mr. Pallavi, kind eyes, the kind of handshake that made you trust him without meaning to. He walked me through the unit himself, pointed out the water heater, warned me the radiator in the second bedroom clanks in winter, gave me the whole tour. Normal landlord things. At the end, he handed me a key ring. 2 keys, he said. One for the main door downstairs, one for the deadbolt on the apartment itself. There were 3 keys on the ring. I asked him about it. He looked at that 3rd key for a second too long. Just a second, but I noticed it, the way you notice someone hesitate before answering a question they've answered 100 times before. Then he said it was for a storage closet in the basement that came with the unit. Told me I probably wouldn't need it. Smiled, handed me the lease to sign. I didn't think about that key again for almost a month. Here's where it actually starts. Small things at first. The kind of small things you explain away because the alternative is admitting something you're not ready to admit. I'd come home from work and find my shoes turned to face the door instead of the wall, which isn't how I leave them. I'm particular about it, but I told myself I was tired, that I don't actually remember every detail of my own habits as well as I think I do. Then it was the thermostat, set 2 degrees lower than I leave it every single morning, like clockwork. Then the kitchen chair, pulled out from the table by exactly the width of somebody sitting down. Exactly the width. Not close. Exact. I started taking photographs. Every morning before I left for work, I'd walk through the apartment and photograph each room. Door locks, thermostat, kitchen. Just to have a record, just to prove to myself that I wasn't losing my mind. I told myself it was silly. I did it anyway. On the 9th day, the morning photo showed the 3rd key missing from the hook by the door. I found it an hour later, sitting on my nightstand. Not dropped. Placed. Centered on the wood, the way you'd set something down carefully, deliberately, like you wanted it to be found in exactly that spot. I did not put it there. I want to be honest about what happened next, because I've read enough of these stories online to know exactly what happens to the person who goes looking. I went looking anyway. I think, at some point, you stop being able to help it. The storage closet in the basement was real. Mr. Pallavi hadn't lied about that part, at least. Old boxes, someone's broken bicycle, the smell of concrete and standing water that never quite dries. Ordinary basement smell. Ordinary basement mess. But at the back, behind a metal shelving unit that looked like it hadn't been moved since the building went up in the 60s, there was a second door. No handle, no number, no label. Just a keyhole. The kind that takes a key exactly like the one now sitting in my palm. I didn't open it that night. I told myself I'd ask Mr. Pallavi first. Do this the responsible way. The way an adult handles a strange locked door in their basement instead of just opening it at 11 p.m. alone. I went back upstairs, and because I couldn't sleep anyway, I opened my photos folder and started comparing that morning's pictures side by side, frame by frame, looking for anything else I might have missed. In the photo from 9 hours earlier, because, yes, I'd started photographing the basement too by then, just to be thorough, the closet door was already open. A crack, just wide enough to see black on the other side. I hadn't been down there in 3 weeks. I called Mr. Pallavi the next morning. The number didn't connect. Not, "This number is unavailable." Disconnected. The flat, dead tone of a line that had never been assigned to anyone. I told myself I'd misdialed. I tried 4 more times. Then I went down to the leasing office in person. The woman at the front desk was patient with me, the kind of patient that comes from having said the same thing to someone before. She told me there had never been a landlord named Mr. Pallavi at this building. Not now, not in the 11 years she'd worked there. I described him. She just shook her head. She pulled up my lease on the computer to check the property manager's name for me. The signature at the bottom wasn't mine. I want to be clear about what I mean by that. It wasn't a bad copy or a signature that looked different because I'd signed it in a hurry. It was a completely different hand. Different letters, different slant, different pressure. Signed under my name, on my lease, in handwriting I have never once produced in my life. I still have that lease. I checked it again an hour before I started recording this. The signature is still wrong. For 2 days after that, I didn't go near the basement. I barely went near the third key, which I'd moved to a drawer, then moved again when I convinced myself I could feel it through the wood somehow. Which I know isn't rational. I know that. But rational stopped feeling like a useful word around that point. I did what anyone with an internet connection does. I researched the building. It took a while because the building had changed names twice, sold under 2 different management companies in the last 20 years. But I found a single forum post, 6 years old, in a thread about the neighborhood's history. Someone claiming they'd lived in a corner unit, 4th floor. My unit, or close enough that I couldn't dismiss it. And that they'd moved out within 2 months because of, and I'm quoting this as close as I can remember it, someone rearranging things while I was gone, and a key I never asked for. The post ended mid-sentence. No follow-up, no responses. The account had been deleted. I sat with that for a long time. I want to tell you I did the smart thing after that. That I broke the lease. That I called a lawyer. That I packed a bag and left that same night and never looked back. But you already know that's not how these stories go, or I wouldn't be sitting here telling you one. What I actually did was go back down to the basement, key in hand. Lighting slightly warmer, false sense of safety immediately before final act. The second door unlocked on the first try. Of course it did. It was always going to. Behind it wasn't a room, exactly. Not the kind you'd expect a basement to hide. It was a hallway. Narrow, low-ceilinged, lit by a single bulb further down than the light should have reached, given how small that basement was supposed to be. And along the wall, at even intervals, were doors. Identical apartment doors. Same paint, same brass numbers, same little peephole at eye level. 4th floor, corner unit. My door number repeated down the hallway as far as the light let me see. 6 of them, maybe 7. I didn't count carefully because by then I was already backing away. I didn't open any of them. I want that on the record. I did not open a single one. I ran. Up the stairs, into my apartment, deadbolt thrown, chair against the door, which I know doesn't stop anything, I know that, but it's what your hands do when your mind has stopped being useful. It's been 4 days since then. I haven't gone back down. I've called 3 separate moving companies and canceled each booking within an hour. And I don't fully understand why, except that some part of me is afraid that leaving is exactly what happens right before whatever this is finishes whatever it's doing. This morning, like every morning, I photographed the apartment before I let myself think too hard about it. There are 4 keys on the ring now. I only ever had 3. I haven't touched it. It's sitting on the kitchen counter exactly where I left it last night, and I am not going to be the one who picks it up first. If it's still there tomorrow morning, I'll tell you. If the count changes again, I don't know what I'll do. I don't think there's a plan for that part. I keep thinking about that hallway. How many doors were down there? How many of them had a me on the other side, going through exactly this, recording exactly this, at exactly 4 in the morning? I hope none of them opened theirs either.